everyone, I'm Miss Lydia from the Boston Library. Thank you so much for joining me for today's craft project. In honor of International Dog Day, today we are going to be making some dog toys, which Harry is very clearly a fan of. He was very upset when I took this one from him, so I'm going to give it back and I'm going to show you how to make one of your own. Go away. You can use a number of different fabrics for this project. I'm going to be using an old t-shirt for this one. The first one that I made with a piece of felt, and you can also use fleece. You need about an 18 by 18 inch square of fabric. So whatever you choose, you want to make sure that it's something that's not going to pill and separate, so that you don't want the dog to ingest any of it. That's why cotton is good, and fleece also, because you don't have to add a seam to it. So I have measured out my 18 inch square here, and I've cut that out. So once I remove that, you also need a tennis ball, a measuring tape, a marker, and some scissors. So I have my 18 inch square here. I'm going to remove the rest of that t-shirt. You can usually probably get two of them out of one t-shirt. And I have my square here. What I'm going to do is from each corner, I'm now going to cut in a 4 by 6 rectangle. So I'm going to measure out 4 inches in and 6 inches the other way. And then I'm going to put a red X in that spot. It doesn't have to be super exact. You can trim this as you go, but you're going to cut that rectangle from each corner. To make this a little easier, I'm also going to take off that bottom seam here. It'll make it easier to create the braids once I'm done. Should just be able to rip that as well. Once I'm done, I have a shape that looks like this. You can see it's not very exact. Again, this is going to be a pretty forgiving project. Dogs aren't usually too picky with their toys. Once I have it at this stage, I'm going to cut strips up, about 1 inch strips and up 6 inches. So again, it doesn't have to be terribly exact. And you also don't really have to count the number of strips that you're doing. You are going to be braiding these, so ideally if you can go in multiples of 3, that works best. And I'm going to work all the way around in that fashion. Once I'm done, it looks like this. I'm going to take my tennis ball, I'm going to put it right in the middle, and then I'm going to gather that over the top of it. So with those strands that I just cut hanging down, I'm going to gather it as tightly as I can over the top. And then I'm going to pick 2 strands pretty close together here, and I'm going to tie it off. So I'm going to go around, all the way around once, and then knot those 2 strands together. And I'm going to tie that pretty tightly. So we have something that looks like that. You can leave it at this stage. They're going to be more prone to ripping. So what the next step would be is to take 3 strands, start anywhere that you want, and braid those together. If you want to plan this out carefully and have it be a real octopus, you're going to want 8 legs. Otherwise, you can just braid as many strands as you have. You can either use 2 strands at a time to make it a little stronger, or you can just use 1 if you want more legs. So I'm going to pick my first 3 strands. And on some of these, because of where it ends up sitting, you might need to cut just a little bit higher in order to be able to braid them. The nice thing with cotton is it's really stretchy, so you can stretch those out quite a bit longer. Once you get down towards the bottom, you're going to take 2 strands and tie them in a knot. And then if you want it to be extra strong, you can double knot that. So then I have 1 leg ready to go there. After that, I'm just going to continue around doing the same exact thing with straight 3 strands at a time. Once all the pieces are braided, you end up with an octopus that looks like this. I ended up with a few more than 8 legs, but I don't think the dog will mind. You can trim off some of these longer pieces, so I'm going to just kind of trim those up a little bit so that they don't hang down as much. We have our final project here. Comment below if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll see you again next week for another project, and I'm going to hand this over to Harry because he seems fairly impatient. We'll get you one too.